Oh, it sounds like Mike going to go through the system. Could sound way better. Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul, how you doing this evening?
You know, I am blessed and highly favored.
Good, good, good.
Let's see if everybody can hear you real well. We're going to see.
Hopefully they can.
Hopefully they can. I'm looking
Let me
there.
get closer.
Thumbs up, guys. Turn his volume on. I think it is on. Right
Is
on
it up?
time. Let's see.
Testing 1, 2, 3. How about that?
How's that? That sound much better, Mike. That sound
pretty good.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, they love it.
Good, good.
Good. Mike, how you doing tonight?
Good. Doing great, actually. I'm laughing. I was laughing also.
Why are you laughing for?
I was actually laughing at because I know that due to weather, they're having to make up policies. They're going to have some emergency meetings in a couple of weeks. And they're doing this because they're trying to cover for some of the weather phenomena that is it's just going to go out of bounds. And it's kind of funny seeing them scramble because their excuses and their evidence of their scientific proof and explanations are starting to overlap and contradict. So it's a funny thing.
Well, okay, just recently they just said a couple of days ago, Mike, that scientific proof that the pole is shifting faster and that it's really messing up bird migration. They're saying that it's really messing up with airplane instrumentation, GPS calculations, and all that kind of stuff. So, what is going on? Are they making that up? Are they?
No, they're not making that up. They're trying to cover their tracks.
Okay.
Again, as we get closer to somewhat of the precipice of this change, they're gonna run out of excuses. We discussed a few years ago how that patterns would change, animals, their migration habits would change. They would have to reestablish different trajectories and orbits for GPS satellites. Everything would have to be recalculated. They already changed the avionics in aircraft, took out some of the analog pressure systems in there. They did a lot to try and cover the fact that the Earth is being impacted on a daily basis, and the trouble is growing. It's really growing. Now they're having to set up some sort of emergency conference. It will likely be under the guise of global warming, naturally, or some climate event, but they will have some sort of meeting, a global meeting on that. So they're scrambling, Pastor Paul. They're scrambling, and they're running out of time. They're out of, and their evidence that whatever they're giving out scientifically is starting to contradict their explanations of the weather phenomena. They're trying really hard to explain that this summer. It's not working, and some of the extremes are being shown. We've hit this weather pattern similar to this, but nowhere close to this extreme. For example, in New York, it'll be snowing in a year shortly, but imagine that snow hitting Arizona this time of the year. Or we know that they know that Arizona is about to be covered in water. But I just want to see how they're going to explain this because they are scrambling. They're scrambling.
So, Mike, this scrambling they're doing, there was Michelle's one of our moderators, and we actually had dinner with her and her son this evening. And she said, it seems like that the reason that we've seen such chaos in the elections in the last two cycles was that they're hurrying. They've had to rush their plans. They had to change this quickly because of the meteor storm or the passing by of this binary system that may be going to really flip these polls. Is she on to something here that they're scrambling? I was watching the State of the Union, where it was actually called a joint session of Congress address. It didn't even seem real. I mean, the building was half empty. It didn't feel real.
Nothing does. It's sad in one respect. But yes, they are trying to, like I said before, some of the experiments at CERN, they are devoted to finding out some precision numbers. They can't afford to be wrong on this. And regarding the sadness, our nation I was thinking today, our nation, there are a lot of people I was remembering and making some phone calls, and I have a lot of peers who have fallen in combat for this country, for democracy. And it's a natural element in democracy. We have to work through disagreements. That's been from the beginning. It'll continue to go forward because we are the standing democracy of this world. But what has happened is they have forgotten about democracy. They've forgotten about the establishment of the freedoms that we have. And it's just like some prisoners, if you let a prisoner free, but he's not adapted to freedom, he'll go back into captivity again. And we seem to be doing the same things. We're taking for granted just how brutal it was to establish this democracy in the first place. It's a blessing to be able to walk around free, to have our own ideas. And naturally, it's going to take everybody coming to the table. Everybody has to come to the table, and we have to work through ideas to see what works and what does not. That's not always friendly. We're going to have racism. We're going to have disagreements. We're going to have, 2, 3, 4 parties. That's part of the democracy and inclusiveness of everybody. And they really have to begin to conversate with one another on this issue. But what they're doing is trying to prove one side right over the other. That's where this calamity comes. That's where the sadness comes in, because that's not democracy. To prove somebody wrong just so you can be right, that's not democracy. Democracy is an establishment of all. And then we work through the ideologies founded upon Christ, because we are founded upon the living God. We've just shifted so far, right, and things are totally out of control right now.
You're exactly right. Folks, we got Mike from around the world with us tonight. What a webinar. What a webinar last weekend. Mike, your presentation really, really woke up some eyes. And really helped explain some things about this binary system. And so I really just want to say thank you for such a great presentation.
Well, you know what? I hope that they can pick up on that, take it further. I know it's in them to take this further, and they can be. There are so many people that are good instruments for the kingdom. I can see it in them. They may not see it in themselves, but these guys are on the money. It astounds me just how close they are. It's kind of like having the right plan, right?
Yeah.
But it's put on the wrong page. They have the right plan. It's on the wrong page, and hopefully this can steer some of that so they can put it on their exact in what they know. They just need a few, primers. And they can adjust, but it's all for the body of Christ, because I'll tell you something, Pastor Paul, without warning. I know that everybody wants a warning for what's coming. It'll be too abrupt. It's going to be too abrupt. This is the warning right now. And we're going to see a building of forces, dismantling of things, outbreaks of people. People are going crazy, just like the animals. And all things are escalating, not to mention we have another pulse headed in this direction. I think I mentioned last time we were looking for that pulse May 14th, somewhere around May 14th.
Yeah. I mean, talk to us about that. That's another one of these waves of energy.
Yeah, it's just like the August 17th pulse, but this time, last time, August 17th, chemicals became volatile that are normally separated. But they became volatile because once we have a pulse, you have high-speed particles that penetrate the atmosphere, and they actually knock the nuclei out of materials, which changes their structure. It can change what something is. We're going to have a lot of that. We estimate near around the 14th, sometime around that time. But of course, as it gets closer, we can make it a pinpoint just like we did last time, and have some exactness there. So.
What do you feel about that super blood moon? I'm calling it the super blood moon doom. I
hope people are paying attention. You know what, Pastor Paul? That is awesome. And I hope that everybody understands. First, the word came first. Of course, Pastor Paul, you know this. Some people out there may not. The word came first, and then God made everything else to match the word. It tells of the word, just like in is that Genesis 1:14? Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven and divide them for day and night. Let there be for signs and for seasons. Well, that word signs is actually signals.
Okay.
Signals and evidence. Let them be for signals and evidence, so they indicate something. They're not just, we're not going to have a blood moon that means nothing. We're going to have a blood moon that means something every single time.
Yep.
They're for signals. That's Genesis 1:14. So this blood moon coming around, and then you're dealing with looking at the temperature around the world, and everybody has their finger on the trigger. And again, like you said, nothing looks real. Governmental powers, they don't look real.
No.
It looks, things are out of the ordinary. So yeah, I think it could, it's going to mean something. Exactly what it's going to mean, I don't know yet. But the Lord didn't do that for nothing. That's up there for a reason.
Right.
All the blood moons are, yeah.
Absolutely. Amen. And you're quoting the right scriptures there as well in that Genesis 1:14. And that is a very good point. It's a sign, it's a signal, it's a warning. It's, hey, this is something very important that's getting ready to happen. Yeah. And just look at the times of the things that are going on right now at this same present time. It's May 26th, 3 days after the Feast of Pentecost, a super blood moon. And the Lord gave me a word, said super blood moon doom. And he says, because so many people are not ready for the events that are about to happen. I don't know if that has to do with war, if that has to do with hunger. We got droughts, Mike. The West Coast.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just the West Coast. Half of the United States, the western half of the United States, dry. And not just us, Australia, other parts of the world. And we're already going to have a food shortage, food distribution messed up. Bacon's $11 a pound today.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen, Mike?
Yeah, you're still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I heard a little bit of a scramble there. The crops were damaged a couple of years ago, really bad. The farmers are struggling. A lot of farms have been shut down. They've been shut down. They simply can't afford to produce anymore. A lot of animals have been put down since COVID-19, and because they couldn't sell, some of the animals. And so you can't, keep them around. But with the food shortage, we also have a supply shortage of maintenance parts that go with some of the vehicles that transport things around this country. Yep. So we're running into problem after problem, so much so that it has at the root of the issue. A lot of people are frustrated because they can't get the repair parts they need because the cost of metals is changing. Manufacturing processes are changing. So it's a huge destabilization. And then you add the people element. There are a lot of people who will not cooperate with the government in any type of way right now. They just won't do it. And so that's impacting manufacturing even more because they just won't cooperate. So given that, we're going to see a hike in fuel shortly, not just because a lot of truckers have refused to drive their trucks. No, because we have some individuals who will no longer produce. They're not going to produce until by their quote, a real government is installed. They just will not support it. And that's understandable, given people's feelings. But again, in this democracy, my goodness, in my opinion, the government in this democracy has lost its way, and it's up to the people in every single case. It's up to the people to reestablish that way. In fact, there is no government without the people. The government is simply a spokesman for the people. But we have learned to depend upon the government, and we sit back and do nothing, waiting for them to make all the decisions, when in truth, we are the decision makers. Who instituted government in the first place? So that the people would have representation of each and every type. My goodness. So they need to get that back together, because they have lost their way. They really do believe that the government right now is, this is a kingship, is what it seems like. It's back to a monarchy, is what it seems like. And democracy is just flowing out of the window. But that's one of those things, and I believe that will come full circle with a hard price. We're going to have to work some things out. So
I actually agree with you. I think that you don't underestimate the heart of a champion. I think Rudy Tomjanovich once said, I think don't underestimate the heart of the Americans. And
That's
the
right.
Constitution is a lot stronger document than what people realize. It is the best governmental document ever designed, and it's because it's based on the Bible. And I just think that just at the end of the day, let's wait and see. I think you're right, Mike, that people are rising up and saying, you know what? We don't care what you guys are saying about some of this stuff. We're going to do what we need to do. We're all going to do what we need to do. And you can see that happening in different states. For instance, today, Indiana signed into law that churches are essential. They can never be closed again. They're just as essential as the fire department or the police department. And Florida had already made this declaration. And you'll probably see more states follow. This is huge because I think people are getting fed up with some of the process. And I think you're on to something here. We're the government. We are. It's ours.
That's right. That has to be, because the Constitution, although it's written beautifully, but if no one is there to actually follow a Constitution or fight for it, it's just a document, and the people bring life to it. But that with our belief in Christ, this country has to get back to that too. We just can't shove that around in the corner, because I believe that's the central point of the breakdown right there. Is as a whole, this country has forgotten who God is as a whole, because we're leaning in too many different directions. Pastor Paul, and I know that will come with a penalty. That'll come with a penalty. It always does. And we face some of that already. But it's correction. I believe it's correction, because the Lord has something for America in these end days. I certainly have not shared that with anybody, but I have my thoughts. But we're going to get corrected, because there's a place for us. We have something very important to do, and he's going to have to grow us and discipline us. He's going to do us just like didn't he say it was in Zechariah 13:9? Israel, he said he would bring a third part through the fire, refine them as silver is refined, try them as gold is tried. He said, then they shall call my name, and I will hear them. And they will say, he will say, it is my people, and they will say, the Lord is my God. Amen. See, only at the time when they're refined do they actually say, the Lord is my God. Amen. Right? So we're going to get back to that, where we will say the Lord is my God, but we're going through a fire. We're going through part of that right now. So I'm kind of like you. I wouldn't be too shaken by it. No. But just understand it's a process. Amen. We still have a place here. Amen. We have a big place in what's happening in this world.
Amen to that. I feel that in my spirit. I really do. Mike, let me just say something right now also. Let me ask you a question. We're going to get into some of these things. The bird's going crazy, and John Kerry's leaking again, and we got, stuff happening. But I got to ask you, I was watching some politicians. I'll say it that way. I'll be careful. And can I ask you, can they make a face mask? Let's say you take my face. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's scary. Wait. If you take a face, can they make a face that they could apply a plaster over someone else who maybe has similar features, and blend it in and make them look almost identical to the other person, especially if they have the voice where they can change their voice and they're pretty good at it? Is that possible, Mike, today? Is the government?
Let me correct you. I mean, they can put prosthetics on your face, right?
Okay.
That look like somebody else, and they can make you look exactly like somebody else.
Wow.
In fact, they train certain individuals to do this, to walk like a person, to engage like a person. After they make the prosthetic mask and the posture, they practice movements and postures and all these telltale things. If you see, here's how you can tell. It's a professional way to tell who's who. Everybody has a notable gait, a walk, and they do specific things that identify them as being who they are, right?
Right.
For example, a person may adjust their glasses every 45 seconds or something like that. Another person may rub their ear or their beard or something like that. So these are small giveaways. If you ever find a person doing that too much, they're probably not who you think they are if they start doing that too much, because they're trying to confirm their identity too much. So if you ever catch something on television where it looks like somebody's face is coming apart or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past anybody. And when you're watching something on television, Pascal, they can do this digitally, right?
Yeah.
And the person is not even there. I know that for a fact. And I know that nobody disputed a few things already, but nobody was there. It was 100% computer generated, and no one complained about it. No one said anything about it. But so these things do happen, and they do have that technology. They can do it in real time. They don't have to pre-record anything. They can do it in real time.
So they could do this in real time on television.
Yes.
Let's say a speech. You're watching a speech or watching somebody, or they could also, or they can take a person and put the prosthetics on the person, get somebody trained, really work them, train them to where they have the mannerisms, they maybe even have the right speech, and can pull it off. I mean, literally could walk into a room and pull it off. You would never have a clue. Do you feel that's already happening now? Are we seeing some of that now?
Well, for one, they do it all the time. Every single president, right? Every single, let's put it this way, every single major individual is going to have some sort of a body double. They're going to have doubles out there that look just like them. They're not going to advertise it. And on occasion, you'll see that double. Hollywood actors and actresses have them all the time. So sometimes when you see an actress or an actor, it's not really them, it's somebody else. But nobody can really tell the difference because they practice this. But I'm telling you right now that they can absolutely do it. That means a person could be dead and gone, right?
Yep.
And they can put somebody in that person's place. And the only folks that will know are the top tier of individuals who, by the way, because they create security, no one's going to really be able to tell. They have fooled family members this way. We have 3-letter agencies, right? CIA, FBI, NRO, NSA, DOD, DHS, and all these people. They practice and infiltrate and do things like this in the Middle East. And in the Middle East, we have people like Mossad and things like that. They do the same thing. They do the same thing. They're so good at it, so efficient at it,
they can fool
that they do it every single
member?
day. It happens every single day.
You're saying they could actually send them back home to a family, and the family wouldn't even know?
Oh, yeah, they can fool them. Yeah.
What?
Yep. And if you notice, listen, the more important a person is, the more they can fool everybody, because an important person is normally not home all the time.
Right.
They're not around their family all the time. So their family is already somewhat estranged, right? So that, that works for that's part of their benefit. But yeah, that goes on all the time. It's very difficult to tell who's who. You can tell, you can tell this one thing. I'll say it again. When you stop seeing people outside, live interviews outside with unknown backgrounds. In other words, if you see somebody in front of the White House and they're outside, that can be staged, right? What I'm talking about is if you see somebody out in the public, say they just put up a restaurant, you see one of these people walk by that restaurant, that's confirmation that person is topside, because you're going to begin to see people you'll never ever see again in the daylight, or they're going to have some manufactured background. There are some people already, I'm not going to mention them, but you never saw them outside. But this is year number 12, I believe it is. You have not seen them outside, though everybody has seen them, but they never question, are these people even, there or not? What's going on with this? Why are they not out there?
Are you saying they're dead? Let's say they might be dead, or they might be underground hiding or something. Is there something going to happen that's causing people to already start to disappear, Mike? Is it about this incoming meteor storm? If
the meteor storm is real, if the binary system is real, if all the things about Nibiru, or all the Plan X and these things, if it's real, they're going to make preparations. If they make preparations, it will have to have started at probably around the year 2009. No later, because that's not enough time. Even right now, to acclimate underground takes 4 years. It takes 4 years you're not going to go from where you are right now deep into the earth and stay in an underground base and then perform your function or duties or tasks, you're going to be sick for a long time. They have to medically acclimate you to living down in that type of environment. Plus, because you're so deep, you're going to have to pressurize the entire place. You're going to have to clean the atmosphere, and you're also going to have to watch out for very exotic bacteria. And that means the atmosphere that you breathe is going to be medically treated, right? Which is going to, it's not going to bolster your immune system. It's going to deplete your immune system. Right. So if your immune system is depleted, you're not coming topside for many years after that. Right. Because your immune system is going to be compromised. So if it's real, yes, they've already started preparing, and they will say a person is dead. They'll simply not talk about a person anymore. Or a person died in combat or some other, weird thing. Maybe they defected. They'll give them a bad name. And when they do this, nobody hunts after them. The key is to cause a person to disappear so that no one tries to track them down. So if they found that if you can dishonor a person in view of the public, that's a good way to get a person into safety, to dishonor them in the public, because nobody cares about a dishonored person. Right. So they just take them out of the public eye. But it's my firm belief that this has been going on for a while. I mean, I've heard when I was small, I used to hear people talk about certain things. Me being in a military family, I heard them talking about certain things. And I would say they have children who have never seen the surface of the earth and everything else.
Mike, do you think John F. Kennedy Jr. could potentially be alive and didn't die in that plane crash?
It's possible. It's possible.
Do you think there's some people like that?
It's possible. These guys, the Kennedy family, principal, these guys were architects of America. They knew what it took to make a society work. These guys knew how to engineer societies and how to take care of people and how to actually coordinate people, right? So whenever you find a person like that, you take a person like that, you safeguard that person. You gotta really protect them, because they can still work for people in other places. In other words, if you find an architect, right, let him remain an architect, but put him in a place where he can really do some good with that, being an architect. It seems like in our world, to be honest with you, all the elements of democracy we once had, all the good ones, they're gone. They're not here. And all we're getting are replacements, people who theorize and attempt things, right? It's not that they're bad people. They just theorize and attempt things. It's almost like they're not efficient at it, right? They're experimenting with it. But all the ones who were solid, and they had some pretty high morals, and they were really firm in what they were doing, they're gone. These folks are gone.
Yeah. Folks, I want to welcome all almost 7,000 of you tonight. We got Mike around the world with us tonight, talking about some really important subjects. I mean, I know climate change, I know the climate chaos, the meteor storm, let's say, that is coming, or if it is true, as Mike said, is going to cause some really crazy things, like underground cities from probably most of the major nations of the world. A pole shift would be devastating, we know. The 5 waves of energy, Mike's telling us there's another wave coming soon, or a pulse. Mike, look, John F. Carey. Here we go again. He's leaking again. I mean, the Iranians are admitting that this guy, they got audio of him sharing the locations of the Israeli strikes. What is going on here? And I mean, is this a replay again of the Obama administration?
Well, let me explain this. Take note, no matter what happens, no matter who's president, nobody has gone into Iran, correct?
That's right.
No matter what happens, nobody has gone into Iran.
That's right.
The last time anybody assisted Iran, they were defeated. Both Russia and America defeated. Other countries have attempted to try. Unless they're assisting, they're going to be defeated.
Yep.
So there is an element in Iran that is just simply not discussed. And it is on the supernatural gauge. It is something different there. So nobody's just going to run into Iran. That should be a question in everybody's mind. With all the nuclear talk, with everything, why has no one gone in there? Right? Now, just look at the end result. Look at the fruit of everybody's endeavors. Not one has gone in
Right,
there. Not
right.
one person.
Is
And
it
they will not go in there.
is
There's a
it
reason for that,
spiritual? I mean,
right?
is it
But all this talk about this nuclear talk and everything else, you know, sometimes, Pastor Paul, these conversations they have in public, they keep the public engaged enough to where the public can't see anything else. Okay, the news is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? They have to fill it up with something. And so they have drama going continually, and most of it goes nowhere. If you think about it, most of it goes nowhere. It's almost like it's looking at it from the another angle I am. It hypnotizes the populace. And it causes it's almost like reality TV that people absolutely believe in, right? I
Yep.
heard 12 totally bogus stories last week that people think are real, and they're not real. They're not real stories. And people are really arguing and fighting over these things. I heard it on all media stations, all of them. Personally, I can't trust them. I can't trust any paid media station out there. I cannot do it. If
Is
they're
it
paid, I can't trust it.
is it
But
propaganda, Mike? Or is all that
propaganda,
doing?
that's right. It's
It's
propaganda,
are we
Pastor
watching
Paul.
a
And so
show?
they keep this stuff going on. Every time we have a Republican president, right? We get close to going into Iran. Every time we have a Democratic president, what do? We start talking at the table. Then we get a Republican president. We're close to going in, but no one has gone in.
Right.
And no one has made any efficient deal that's going to last for any long term. So we keep falling for the same presentations over and over again, this same thing. And sure enough, the people, you know what the people are saying now? Oh, yes, they get to talk again, right? So what they're doing is appeasing the public.
Right.
They're giving the public what the public wants to keep them engaged in this game called Zippo, Zip Zero. You get nothing out of it while they're doing something else important. And it really seems, I'll just spill this one, doesn't it look like all the real people are gone? It looks like
Yeah.
all the real, important, meaningful folks are gone. And all the other ones that were sitting somewhere else, they kind of grabbed up to fill positions. That's what it looks. It looks like a circus all over the world.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. Well, except for Russia. That's certainly not a circus. But everything else is just not. You said it right when you said it does not look. It doesn't look real. I know what you were referring to, but broaden that out a bit. It looks like they're just taking up time while they're doing something else.
That's
right?
what I'm
Because
saying.
CERN is still working 100%. They're doing so many experiments and passing things around to other countries. And why are we working scientifically with Russia and China? Why? But politically, we're torn apart. That
Mike,
makes sense.
I've been talking and interviewing you for at least 8 or 9 years. And one thing I've learned about you, when you bring up a subject 3 times, I better open my ears and listen. I've heard you bring up CERN 3 times already in this first half hour, and actually it's been going on about a month. CERN. There's something going on that's really concerning you, no pun intended. But can you tell us what is it what is it they're doing in CERN that in your opinion may be very dangerous?
Pastor Paul, these guys are making strides in a domain of a place of existence that'll just blow the average person's mind. But honestly, it is, I'm telling you, they're tapping into evil itself is what they're doing. I mean, real evil.
What?
Not some movie evil either. I'm talking about real evil. These guys are tapping into real evil. And, you know, they could potentially, from what some of their experiments have unlocked more than a few things. They have demonstrated more than a few things. And CERN has given capabilities to other agencies that is just mind-blowing. Right now, they're working on things that are far beyond anything they ever proposed. And I tell you, at any moment, they could really fully tap into something extremely dark. Now, when listen, imagine the world one day, all of a sudden, there is no hope in anybody left. Just no hope. I mean, a dark, depressive state, full of insecurities and everything else, as though the world was cut off from all light. with thoughts, sometimes, and people have had this, in your dreams, you're not really in control of your dreams,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Imagine a nightmare. Everybody's had some sort of a scary dream, and they're glad they wake up. They're glad it's over, right?
Yes.
Imagine being awake, but you're in that mind state, and you cannot escape that mindset. But you're awake. Um, what they're tapping into would be 1,000 times worse than that, because there's a real physical consequence to what they're doing, and they know it. That's why they kind of went off the radar for a long time. That's why they backed down. They had those shutdowns,
So,
which a couple of them were artificial.
right.
And what that was to work up a type of, people lost confidence in what they were doing, and the interest faded, and everybody left CERN alone. And that's when they doubled all efforts. Everything they were doing, they doubled. And these guys have made some strides that
I mean,
you
they
just
got
wouldn't believe.
Shiva. They got the
And they're
Hindu.
doing it with the perfection of quantum computing.
Yeah, they got
And
the Hindu.
fueling
They got the Hindu
AI,
goddess. They got the
they're
Hindu.
making further strides, Pastor Paul.
Yeah, okay. So they got the Hindu goddess Shiva in the front. They've done their parades. They talk about piercing the veil. But I'm sensing that this is even deeper than that. That this is like an interdimensional or demonic or the gate or breaking through the gates of hell or something, or opening up a portal into the darkest abyss there is. I mean, is there something that they're playing with some serious fire right now?
Yeah, they're already doing it. They already know the consequences, because they're chewing up personnel. Doing what they're doing, and some people cannot mentally take it. Now, there are a couple of folks who have bailed out. They will not allow those people to talk to the public, and I guarantee right now they're sedated. They're on a Thorazine drip or something stronger to keep them, hush hush. But there are people who have gone absolutely nuts and everything else. So yeah, they're dealing with some bad stuff. And they're, as I said before, they're grabbing antimatter. Right?
Yeah.
Antimatter from a realm that they're pulling into this existence. Well, existence keeps balance. And if you notice something, this present day, more and more people are noticing some very odd and strange things, right? More and more people, not because we have more cell phones or everything else. The impact, or let's just say how things are manifesting, is becoming quite physical. I believe that part of that reason is that these guys, they keep getting power from this other realm. They're actually pulling. It's like pulling voltage, right, out of a sugar cube, but you're pulling electricity to power the whole world every single second. This is what these guys are doing, pulling power the size of a sugar cube, right, out of a door the size of a sugar cube, but it would power the entire world. They're doing this once per second. So there's only one realm mathematically that they can be extracting something from like that. It has to be a realm that cannot be seen, and it encompasses all things. That's the spiritual realm or something like it.
Right.
But
it's a spirit of darkness. So in other words, we know the prince of the power of the air is Lucifer himself. And he operates in a realm of darkness or a realm of evil. And so I think what you're saying, or I'm trying to comprehend it, that man, seances are bad, okay? When you start calling on demonic forces, when you start naming entities and entertaining them, you can mess things up in your own soul and in your own mind. And so when you say they're chewing up personnel, I think that means they're just running through people who they're throwing at this dark veil through the CERN process. Is that what I'm hearing? Mike,
I don't know if you can hear me, but I cannot hear. There you are. Okay, I didn't hear a word you said.
Okay, Mike.
Cut it off.
All right.
Something.
Can you hear me now?
Something cut off.
Can you hear me now? Mike, can you hear me?
It's breaking up. There it is. I see. Okay.
Okay.
Am I back? Can you guys hear me?
No, we hear you just fine. That might have just they might have been cutting me off this time because I was going somewhere I've never gone, and that is.
But I heard what you're saying though, Pastor. So we could, you can almost say if you could simplify that term, what they're doing is using the power of darkness in this world.
Okay. Okay.
utilizing it in a literal sense. And they've already collected lots of antimatter. You know, it's antimatter sitting in New York. It's antimatter sitting in there are different CERN facilities that are coordinated with CERN, right?
Yeah.
And they're all working together with China and Star City, which is making some incredible advancements because they will have a artificial sun on the face of this earth. They've already spun the thing a few times. And so they have the calculations for the reactions that was given by CERN because of what they perfected. These guys are tampering with forces they can't possibly contain. There's no way they can possibly contain what they're about to let loose. And the spiritual realm is extremely tricky because they've tried this before in the past, believe it or not, in several different operations, tampering with archaeological finds, and it comes with a penalty, a price. So I tell you what, I guarantee people will have not only the dream increases, right,
Right.
but a type of confusion state that nobody can really understand. I can almost guarantee it. That's going to be a consequence of what they're doing right there, because this is going to spread around the globe, starting from that one central point.
Now.
And every time they fire this thing up or start certain experiments, our magnetic field lines, they just go wacky all the time. They go wacky. This is important because it keeps high-speed particles in CERN, right? The magnets keep it going in straight lines. They can direct it through magnetic fields. But in order to do that, they have to generate an enormous magnetic field to keep those particles going in the direction they want them to.
So, Mike.
Or else CERN turns into a particle weapon.
All right. Now, here's a question. So they're working this feverishly for CERN to get this technological weapon that they could use on the minds of people, on the populace? Is this part of the strong delusion?
That's a consequence. Just think that's just a consequence. That's going to be a consequence of what they're doing. Just a consequence.
So it's worse than that.
Yeah, what they're doing is worse. That'll just be a consequence. You know, because we have conventional sciences, but you also have exotic sciences, which the military-industrial complex used to engage in when it was spoken about a long time ago by Kennedy.
Yeah.
Then that has gone on beyond prying eyes, as far as they've been working with chimeras, mixing human DNA with just about everything, because they come up with inventions that people wear, but they have not investigated where they got that from. You know, people gladly take the technology, not understanding who lost their life for that technology, for stupid things too. But yeah, these guys are going a bit too far. They're going a bit too far. I think Elon Musk is highly aware of what they're doing, and I believe he just wants to get away. He wants to get away.
He wants to get off the planet because
he knows away.
It sounds like there's going to be some serious mind altering. It's going to be some control mechanisms of the human populace. Maybe there's going to be some major depopulation with some of this. And obviously we've got the climate problem. We've got the Planet X, Nibiru. We got the waves of energy coming from all of the shaking of the heavens. We've got mankind. And look, Mike, we've got birds. This is a nightmare. It happened in California. 800 birds. A family went out for dinner. They came home and 800 birds was in their house. And the same day, another town in California, 1,000 birds was in another house. Out of their mind. Insanity. What's going on, Mike? Are the animals starting to react? Is there something shaking up their mental capacity?
You better believe it. You better believe it. In our, we discussed this some years back. I forgot which year it was, but I mentioned something about the animals being a good indicator.
Yes.
Yes, the crash of our magnetosphere. And the reason why I say that is because birds have many of the birds have a bit of magnetite in their beak, right? It is also, they also have a special chemical and some of that magnetite in their eye, which allows them to see magnetic field lines. Birds can actually, it is thought that birds can see, especially homing pigeons, they can see magnetic field lines. They can see them and follow them, right? And this aids them in migration, especially if conditions are not favorable regarding the sun. So they go beyond the sun. They follow these field lines. But if something disrupts these lines of force, the birds get frightened. Okay, they've not seen these lines of force so chaotic. So if they are chaotic, these birds are going to be frightened. And we have a loss, great loss in our atmosphere. There are many holes in our atmosphere right now in our magnetos, our shielding, where the magnetic field lines are like spaghetti. They're just going in all different directions. They have no order to them, right? So there is a massive disruption all over the earth as far as magnetic field lines. These birds, even us, we have it too. It's going to affect us too. All life, it will affect. And so as it gets worse, birds are going to be your first indication. Dogs are to follow. Birds and rodents are going to really tell you when it's messed up, because when the rodents migrate, right?
Yeah.
Followed by birds losing their way. And we've already had this. I'm sure that people have seen the geese and the ducks and all these guys at the wrong times. I'm sure you've seen them flying at the wrong times.
Yes.
They've had butterflies show up in places totally out of season. They've had, so the migration process has suffered. Now, as that continues, as these magnetic lines of force continue to scramble themselves due to external strong, fields. Not only that, but some of our technology here on Earth, as they continue to scramble, it will cause an effect in all life. Now, for a human being, it's bad. We have no power over we revert back to an animal-like mentality without the Earth's magnetic shielding, meaning
primal?
We have no way to rationalize anything. Our frontal lobe is almost all but shut down, which means we start acting just like everything is a predator towards us, or something is about to attack us, and our aggression is increased towards them. They had two people tore each other to shreds that went into space and came back. This was in the early days of the space program. They learned this. They found this out the hard way. When you go beyond the Earth's magnetic shielding, right? These two people went nuts, and they were non-recoverable, because instantly your neurological connections begin to break.
Did that happen to the Russian cosmonauts? Didn't they go nuts?
Yes. And they were messed up from that day. They were killing each other. Coming back, they were just like animals. They were just like animals. In other words, a person, and this is why, I tell people, Christians, my brothers and sisters in Christ, all the time, we have a term where we say, I have to hold my tongue. No, we have to purge ourselves.
Right.
Because these activities that people do, these astronauts, right, they're perfect examples of what happens when you have nothing governing the monster inside, the flesh inside. But we have power to purge the flesh through Christ, which means you don't have to hold your tongue or bite your tongue. You can purge yourself, so you never have to hold your tongue, right? We can be in a position where we never have to hold our tongues. And if we can accomplish that through Christ, which means actually purge ourselves, then when the time comes where the scrambling takes place, we're not going to suffer from madness. In the Bible, doesn't it say the horses are going to be smitten with blindness, and the riders with madness? Doesn't it say that?
Yes, it says the horses with blindness and the riders with madness. So you're talking about some kind of
magnetic field, Pastor Paul, breaks down, then guess what? GPS is done for. It's not going to work. So there's no navigation to the vehicles nor aircraft. And if there's no magnetic field, then human beings are going to revert back to some sort of an animalistic mentality. They're going to act like they're mad.
Primal.
And the vehicles will have no direction. That's how can that fits together. That's just one of those things.
So we go back to being primal. If you watch some of the people now in high authority, the things they say to each other and the way they act childish, even primal. This cancel culture is primal. It's not negotiable. It's not differences of opinions, but we still are all a human race. It's becoming primal. And that has to be the soulical part of mankind, is being affected by either the food we're eating, the stuff that's getting into our system. I mean, something, or just the wickedness that's taken over. Mike, you see what I'm saying?
It is. Yeah. Well, that part is true. Darkness is covering everything, and we do suffer. A lot of people suffer from. There's a medical term for people who, when they naturally die, people die from aneurysms. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's a natural cause of death.
Yeah.
But when they start looking at the human body, they also understand because these dementia and all these diseases have risen to such a high degree. People are being broken down from the inside, right? And they have nothing to fall back on. I can say this for a fact, Pastor Paul. A person who has a foundation in Christ is not going to have to worry about certain things. They will not have to worry about the horrors mankind will go through. If we ever get out of position, if we start losing our minds, we're going to be in a waking dream on a continuous basis we won't be able to escape from, right? Which makes us weak in all aspects of our lives. No one would want to have their conscious mind and their subconscious mind activated at the exact same time in real time, because they wouldn't be able to discern what's real, what's false.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Their dreams and reality would mix in together.
You would be
this
in a
is already starting to happen to people in certain areas. And it is specific to certain areas right now, but those areas are going to, they will eventually spread all over the earth, and people are going to have to deal with every single fear they have. Their mind can make those fears manifest right before them. Now, to that person, that fear is going to be real. Even though the other person doesn't see it, that person is going to have to deal with certain fears they have. And so for a Christian, though, it's important that their foundation be right. A simple proof of concept is this. When a person is medically put under, right?
Yep.
Then whatever they're talking about or anything else, that's on a subconscious level, right?
Right.
This is funny, Pastor Paul. This is true, too. They put me on. I've been under about 3 or 4 times, right? Every single time. You know what I talk about?
What?
I talk about Christ and technology. Every single time. So it's like permeated in me through and through, right? But other people, when they're put under, you don't want to hear what they're talking about.
No.
You don't want
to know what they're going to say.
Because they talk about vile things, and they just talk about it openly. Kids start cursing. They start to express every single emotion they have because there's no restraint, right? Then when they come back to themselves, no one really replays what they've been talking about. But
how
it's
close
awful.
are we, Mike?
But if the heart is purged, well, then they'll be in a good place.
How close are we to how close are we to the global scrambling, let's call it, which I think is a strong delusion? How close are we, Mike?
Pastor, you know what? I believe it's already begun, and the only unique way I can explain the entire thing is probably through a detailed some type presentation for some background, some current things, so that people can actually see it. That would take talking and some sort of illustration to show people that I believe that delusion is here. Here's why I believe it's here, for 2 reasons. The first reason is for all those people who do not love the truth, God is going to give them over to that strong delusion.
Yes.
So they will believe a lie.
Yep.
Now, if he gives them over to a strong delusion, it must already be established. And I believe that the beginning part of that delusion is people's belief in mankind. Because we always think that man can solve this and can solve that, right?
Right.
Not God, but man. We believe man can. Our faith is in man. In truth, once we start to really check ourselves, we can see that we sometimes make mistakes, and we believe that man is going to solve something. Just like through all this political stuff, you'll often, I even have to catch myself. Because I'll say, why don't they get it together? But wait a minute. Why don't I get myself together? Right. And attribute to the good that's being done. But people have faith in men, in man, and in the concepts of men. So much so they're believing in everything that's coming out on the news. You can start a rumor and they'll start believing it. So you have a lot of people who are lost right now, and their faith is in man, and they don't want to believe in Christ.
The Bible says that
a lot of these people, they don't bring Christ up. They will curse you out if you do that.
You know, the
But
Bible says
that
that,
line of
Mike.
distinction is becoming quite broad.
Right.
It's becoming quite broad, but I think it's begun, and I think it's getting stronger. That's what I believe.
The Bible says, "For your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God." And you can see that happening all the time, where people have forgotten God. They've just forgotten God. They've eliminated him from their psyche, from their soul, from their everyday existence, and their whole faith is in man. Boy, I tell you, man can do some nice things and do through God working through them. But boy, you better put your faith in God, Mike. Is that right?
Yeah, because often, with men, they do things, they accomplish things. That's good. That's great. But when we begin to depend upon what they have built, in other words, in the Bible, that's worshiping the works of your own hands.
Yeah.
If we build something, we're not to worship that thing we build.
No.
But it should be a tool that it not be made in vanities. And but the world has, they're very vain. They do everything to promote self. And in so doing, Pastor Paul, they're blind to what's coming. Right?
Yep.
They're blind to what's forming. They're blind to the forces that are really going to snatch them up. Because we, still to this day, Pastor Paul, we haven't even touched the spiritual manifestation side of the end times.
No.
That subject right there alone is hard to swallow. The physical stuff that we're talking about, a lot of people find that hard to believe. Imagine when the spiritual things begin to manifest, they're really going to be lost.
They won't know
They're going to be lost.
Going on.
They're going to search down every prophecy they can find from anybody they can find who knows prophecy to try and discern what the world is going on. But this, as far as that delusion and things, I believe it's already begun in a big degree. And I do believe that a type of disclosure is right around the corner. And when I say right around the corner, I mean a forced disclosure. I'm not talking about somebody's voluntary, disclosure. I'm talking about a forced disclosure is right around the corner. The clock has run out. I believe that some people understand, they know about the one-handed clock. It's called a one-handed clock. I believe they know about the one-handed clock. Now, these will be people who are very familiar, Pastor Paul, with the subject that you are going to have a presentation about. And I think they're familiar with a one-handed clock. But when that clock hits zero, then everything is over. Everybody's familiar with the term full stop.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's been hearing that now, and I'm glad they are. So now the news media can use that term. But what full stop means is it's over. We're out of time. That's the real end of the deal. I'm talking about the real end of the deal. And you'll always hear full stop whenever they discuss any matters of the earth or matters of humanity that could really bring about something absolutely horrible. You're going to hear that term full stop, which means it's either too late, right? They're past the mark, or this is the end. And what we're about to do for real. And this is likely why you see countries like Russia making moves the way they are. They're not playing. Russia's not joking around. They're playing.
They're not.
People can interpret it that way, but we sit at the precipice.
Do you believe Russia? Do you believe Russia?
A real war.
Do you think Russia's going to go ahead and they've taken Crimea? Do you think they are going to go ahead and just take eastern Ukraine at some point, maybe this summer, when the ground is not as wet and it's drier? Do you think that's going to happen?
Pastor Paul, I believe Russia is being forced to a degree, right, to save in their minds, to make a power move. Russia can never go back to the way they were, or they won't survive.
No.
They just can't survive that way, right? No. They cannot survive with all these countries in power like they are. They can't survive that way.
They don't have enough population.
So Russia's making a move. They're not going to ever go back to the way they were. They're going. They have to expand or die, and that's their mindset. There is no real negotiation. They have set up seaports right outside of Israel. They have them near Turkey. They're talking to Greece. They have been discussing things with Italy. So they're setting up all over the place. Saudi Arabia is talking to them. There's a lot of ships right now on the move, a lot of ground troop movement coordinating with Iranian and Chinese individuals. India is caught in the middle of that. Indonesia is showing aggression towards, countries
China.
that lean towards a democratic side of things or Western culture. What's going on there? And when Indonesia gets involved in things, and they're not playing games either, that's because they're protecting their homeland. They're aware that there's a very dangerous situation because Indonesia does not really. They don't really do anything with the world, right? They just don't. They don't really.
No,
They're
on
not
their
really
own.
a
They're on their
marker
own.
in anything.
Yeah.
So for them to actually become bold, okay, that's telling all of us something, because Indonesia is another place that they will only act to save their people. And if they perceive a danger, they will start to act. And recently they've started to act. So we have some real things to contemplate now, dude. But we're with the chimes of war, they're going off, but it's unlike any other time, because no other time in history, not even World War II, have we had this readiness state that all these countries are in right now. They're armed to the teeth, Pastor Paul.
Yeah, it feels like,
they're
Mike,
armed to the teeth.
It really does feel like that everybody has got a gun pointed at everybody. That they're worried that there's not enough resources for their own kingdoms. And if they have to, they're going to take somebody else's to survive. It's becoming a survival mentality. We got a lot of bad weapons. They're threatening. There's a lot of things can be done. There's weather modification. There's a shortages. We're seeing shortages of clean drinking water, shortages of food, more drought, more famine, more disease, more earthquakes, more volcanoes, and more asteroids, more meteors. Planet X is coming. Yeah, and evil's increasing. And I think a lot of it has to do with fear, that men are afraid that they're going to perish, and they have no hope in Christ at all.
No, they don't.
So, yeah, this is a volatile world, a very dangerous world, really.
Yeah.
And, well, hey, we're going to talk more about this next Thursday, Mike. So what should we look for next Thursday, Mike? What do you see coming?
Well, let's all get prepped for the water. We're going to have, we know that the summer's coming, and the capability of the atmosphere is really going to show itself. And so we're going to have to, lots of places are going to deal with flooding. In places that have never flooded before, they're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to deal with that and the hardening of the ground at the same time. So, but that, all these the weather changes are real, and they're going to cost us big time. They're going to cost us big time. Temperatures are likely to be extremely high. You know what? In fact, the entire demographic of how we see things is going to be altered by the end of this year. It's going to be different. Any plans people have made or projections that they have made, watch. By the end of this year, everything's going to be different. Everything will be different.
Here we go again. Let's get ready. Jesus is coming soon. Mike, see you next Thursday night, Lord willing.
Lord willing. God bless you, Pastor Paul. It's always an honor.
It's always an honor to have you on with us. God bless you, Mike. Thank you.
God bless.
Mike from around the world, folks.